I'd like to introduce Dereck Spencer, who's with Marketing and Operations Manager, and then also Dustin Powers, who's the President. Thank you. You're also members of our church. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Like she said, today's presentation is on cybersecurity. First, a little bit about ourselves. I'm president of Innovative Computer Services, and we are a IT firm. We mainly deal with small to medium-sized businesses in the, well, we cover a pretty big footprint. Actually, it's from like Williamsburg to the Tri-Cities. Well, honestly, we have one customer in Williamsburg, but that counts. Mainly it starts in Christiansburg to the Tri-Cities and going north to Bluefield, West Virginia, down to Galax is our footprint. And we're a small firm, but we probably cover about 100 small businesses. They could have a real estate firm with 3 or 4 computers. It could be a manufacturing plant with 40 computers and some servers. But the cybersecurity that we're going to talk about today kind of covers all of those companies and pretty much anybody else that uses any electronic device. This was, like she mentioned, Dereck, our marketing manager.
Hey, that's what you can say about me. Marketing manager, that's my name.
So when you talk about cybersecurity, that's a really broad topic. So at the beginning, we thought we would just go into an overall grand scheme of things, and then I really want to focus on something that we're seeing a lot of. And me as an IT person and a business owner, it's really quite scary, to be honest, and it's emerging very quickly. But first, in the broad scheme of things, when you say cybersecurity, a lot of people think credit card fraud. You hear stories all the time of hackers getting into point-of-sale systems, Target, Home Depot, a lot of companies like that, TJ Maxx. They get in, they take the credit card information. The companies end up paying millions and millions of dollars out in lawsuits and everything else. As an IT company, we deal a lot with our companies trying to maintain PCI compliance, and that is where they're transmitting credit card information over the internet to merchant accounts, and they have to, their routers, their firewalls have to all meet certain standards. Some people think about healthcare fraud. In the past 10 years, I think the healthcare field, for me as an IT person, has seen the biggest change of anything. 10 years ago, most of the medical offices had maybe 1 or 2 computers up front that they had their schedules on and their patients, and now most providers have full charts that they carry around on their tablets into the rooms and make notes in the rooms. And the government has a set of rules called HIPAA that these healthcare providers have to try to follow to protect patient information. A lot of my clients have moved, because of the HIPAA rules, they've moved into the cloud where their data is actually at a data center somewhere. Because HIPAA not only covers things like hackers trying to get into your network, but it's as broad as, is your server locked up in a room somewhere in an office that nobody can get to? Because somebody could just break in and take your server, leave, and they have all your information. So that's why a lot of people move to data centers. Other people, they might think of privacy when you think of cybersecurity, like mega corporations that monitor your habits on the internet. You know, if I'm on Google and I'm searching for a carburetor for a Chevy Camaro, and 2 days later I go to Amazon and all of a sudden there's ads over here for a Chevy Camaro carburetor, you know, they're watching that, and that's how Google makes a lot of their money. And a lot of people don't like that. In fact, I found a little video on the internet that kind of pinpoints this a little bit better.
Hey, bro! Listen, I was trying to buy this handcrafted mahogany wood model of a B-25 Mitchell Panchito aircraft.
Aw, for me?
Don't sass me. And I went to this website, and this ad popped up that said, "Hey, Ron Swanson, check out this great offer."
What's your question?
My question is, what the hell?
Like, how do they know who you are?
Yeah.
Okay, there are these things called cookies, where, like, if you go to a site and buy something, it'll remember you and then create ads for other stuff you might want to buy.
So it learns information about me? Seems like an invasion of privacy.
Dude, if you think that's bad, go to Google Earth and type in your address.
I would have loved to do that so many days with a computer. hacking into personal sites, still personal information, but you hear all the time Twitter accounts getting hacked into, ex-girlfriends, ex-boyfriends. They post pictures that aren't too pleasant to your Twitter feed or your Facebook wall. There's other personal sites that a lot of people don't like their information being taken from. And, you know, my old buddy Josh there, he got hacked into. A lot of people found out about his web habits. And then finally, there's viruses and malware. That's probably the biggest topic. They're spread across the internet, cell phones, tablets, everywhere. And these viruses can steal personal information. They can demand money. It's amazing the new stuff that's coming along, and that's what we're going to focus on in a few minutes. But we're just going to give a little bit more history on the whole range of cybersecurity.
1989, the first computer worm was created by Robert Morris. This self-propagating virus spread so aggressively and rapidly that it closed down most of the internet. Most people don't realize that there was even hackers in 1989. There's a lot of people who didn't even know computers existed in 1989, besides the old green ones that we used to play Oregon Trail on in school. That was about the only computers that I remembered. In the 1990s, the first viruses started in the early 90s. The Melissa and the I Love You viruses infected tens of millions of PCs, causing email systems around the world to fail, all for little or no strategic financial gain. They just did it basically to be malicious. There was no, just something fun to do, I guess. In the 2000s, between 2005 and 2007, Albert Gonzalez masterminded a criminal ring that stole information from at least 45.7 million payment cards from U.S. retailer TJX, also known as TJ Maxx, and the UK version TK Maxx. An attack of this scale was unheard of, costing the company more than $256 million to get back all the stuff that was taken. And then recently, was anybody hit by the Target deal in 2013? We were. We had the Target red card, and we were the only ones that got hit. And ever since then, we've actually had not LifeLock, but the Protect My ID. I don't know if anybody else has any of those. They actually did a year free through Target because of the hack, and then we just kept it going. But in 2013, point of sale system was hacked. Hackers developed a code to allow access to more than 40 million credit cards, debit cards, by using Target's point of sale system. Basically, every card that was swiped, they got all the information from, and charged it and did whatever they wanted to with it. And that's probably the biggest one now, since the one in 2005, 2007. Here's a few statistics about cybersecurity. There's 19 criminals on the FBI's most wanted list, which are responsible for more or anywhere from $350,000 to $100 million each of how much money they've cost the people. Does anybody in here have $350,000 they can just let go away? Does anybody have $350,000 period?
Derek's more than one person again.
I don't keep less than 100 mil. So, the most expensive computer virus of all time was an email worm called My Doom, causing $38.5 billion in estimated damages. Social media is a hacker's favorite target. More than 1.6 billion people have accounts on social media. Every day, 600,000 Facebook accounts are basically compromised. So 600,000 a day. That's not 600,000 a month, a year, 600,000 a day. 99% of computers are vulnerable to exploit kits or software vulnerabilities. Hackers use out-of-date programs such as Java. How many people close out the Java thing when it pops up on your computer every time saying it needs to be updated? I'm guilty. The Adobe Reader, I do the same thing. I don't update it until something comes up that I can't open. And then I'm like, well, I should probably update this so that I can look what I need to look at. They use those to gain access to your computer. All it takes is one click on the advertisement banner to give a hacker full access to your computer. All those little advertisement banners that pops up, it could be one of theirs. You click on it, they have full access to everything on your computer. 59% of employees steal data from their company when they quit or are fired. And that's, sometimes you probably don't even realize what they take with you. I know of one that's a whole list of recipes from the company computer. 68% of funds lost during cyber attacks are declared unrecoverable. So basically anything that you get, that they take from you, 68% of it you're not going to get back. Global studies show that it can take up to 170 days before a cyber attack has been recognized. The same study put cybercrime at a 176% increase since 2010. It's basically went from 50 successful cyber attacks a week to 138 a week since 2010 in the past 6 years, or less than 6 years.
But our focus today is on ransomware. Who has heard of ransomware? Okay, so there's some knowledge of it. I first encountered it, I think in 2013. It was the Cryptolocker variation of ransomware at that time, but it has changed greatly since then. So ransomware, it's a malware or a virus that is going to restrict access to a computer system in some way, and it demands something to get that back. The most common forms will encrypt files on your hard drive. It's almost impossible to decrypt those files, and they will ask you for money to give you a key to decrypt the files with. Most of the time, this comes through as a Trojan, an email attachment, and it's disguised to look like an ordinary file. When you launch it, all your files are locked. Like I mentioned, the Cryptolocker here was one of the first wide-ranging attacks. It says they took in about $3 million in ransom money before they were taken down by the authorities. The thing is, hackers now, the terrorists, I call them terrorists too, but they've seen how easy it is to create these viruses and spread them across the net. So Cryptolocker was taken down. Well, right away, another group said, well, that code was really easy. I can repeat that and I can fix the problems they had. So they came out with Cryptolocker. All right, Cryptolocker, it's accrued $18 million by June 2015. Well, antivirus and everybody, they've got smart to Cryptolocker. So then Cryptolocker 2.0 came out. Then Tesla Crypt came out. Then the Locky virus came out. And the LOL virus. It just keeps growing and growing. Basic same thing here. The shift took place last year in the world of crime. These people that were writing viruses suddenly realized how easy it was to do this and how much money they could make. In most cases, they're asking for at least one Bitcoin, which Dereck will go into in a minute. And that could be $400 or $500 at a time. So every computer they encrypt, they're asking for a Bitcoin or $500 to give you the decryption key to unlock your files. I mean, there's millions of computers that get encrypted. We're talking a lot of money. Like I said, it usually comes in through an email attachment. Lately, though, it's even coming through websites that have been hacked or hijacked. Like you mentioned earlier, clicking on a bad banner on a website. Well, there's banners now. You click on those, they will install this ransomware software on your computer. It encrypts all kinds of, it looks at file extensions, so JPEGs, DOC, Excel, databases. There's probably 100 extensions that it looks for, and once it finds those, it encrypts that file, and you can't open it anymore. They do ask for Bitcoin payment. We're going to show a couple of videos. It's really neat. They've come a long way in their user interface when they ask for these payments. They even have a nice little customer support section now. If you're having trouble paying with your Bitcoin, they try their best to help you out. Yeah, it's very nice. You can ask them questions back and forth.
They still haven't come out with a survey yet. I think that's the next step.
Well,
To see how they're doing.
so I think the next clip is a video. It's from PBS. Yeah, this one's good. This one talks about, I think this will be the crypto wall virus, and it's two things. It's talking about a hospital that got encrypted, and they had to pay a ransom, and it's also talking, it's an elderly lady that had a bunch of family photos of her granddaughter that got encrypted, and she had to make the choice of whether to pay the encryption fee to get those photos back.
But first, a look at what's become the latest threat to our cybersecurity. The problem took on new urgency recently when a hospital in Los Angeles had its entire computer network, including all its digital medical records, locked up by hackers. They demanded a ransom before they'd release the computers. It was the second such attack this month. LA's health department was hit last week. These types of computer attacks, which usually target individual computer users, are on the rise. The NewsHour's William Brangham reported on this threat last year, and now he brings us an update.
Ina Simone is retired. She's a mother and grandmother from Russia who now lives outside of Boston. In the fall of 2014, her home computer started acting strangely.
My computer was working terribly. It was not working. I mean, it was so slow.
A few days later, while searching through her computer, Ina saw dozens of these messages. They were all the same. They read, "Your files are encrypted. To get the key to decrypt them, you have to pay $500. Her exact deadline, December 2nd at 12:48 p.m., was just a few days away. All of her files were locked. Tax returns, financial papers, letters, even the precious photos of her granddaughter Zoe. Ina couldn't open any of them.
It says if you won't pay, your fine will double. If you won't pay by then, all your files will be deleted and you will lose them forever and never will get back.
Ina Simone, like thousands of others, had been victimized by what's known as a ransomware attack. Hackers, who law enforcement say come mainly from Eastern Europe or Russia, managed to implant malicious software onto your computer, usually when you mistakenly open an infected email attachment or visit a compromised website. That software then allows the hackers to lock up your files or your entire computer until you pay them a ransom to give it back. Justin Kapos is a computer security expert at New York University.
It will actually lock you out of the files, the data on your computer. So you'll be able to use the computer, but those files have been encrypted by the attacker with a key that only they possess. It's frustrating because you know the data is there. You know the files are there. You know your photos and everything is there and could be accessible to you, but you have no way of being able to get at it because of this encryption that the attackers are using.
This is exactly what happened at Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital in Los Angeles. According to officials, about a month ago, their computerized medical records were locked up by one of these malicious programs, and a hacker demanded $17,000 in ransom to unlock them. During this time, medical staff were forced to use paper and pen for their record keeping, but they say no patient files were compromised. The hospital decided to pay the ransom, their computers were unlocked, and the FBI is now investigating. Ina Simone was facing the same dilemma, whether or not to pay the ransom. Computer technicians were no help. She didn't want to call the police. Her husband at first said, "Don't pay the ransom," but she wanted those files back. In their ransom note, the hackers wanted to be paid in Bitcoin, the largely untraceable digital currency, and have it put into their anonymous account. Ina had never heard of Bitcoin, but the hackers, in one of their many touches of what you might call customer service, provided all sorts of helpful facts and links and how-to guides about Bitcoin. Alina Simone is Ina's daughter.
If you see the ransom note, you can see, they try to reassure you about Bitcoin. Like, we've got screenshots, or, here's a link to some kind of a guide that talks you through the whole process, and here's a list of providers with little kind of Yelp-like reviews next to each one that kind of explains their strengths and weaknesses. It's incredibly sophisticated.
After days of debate, Ina decided to pay. She sent the money order to a Bitcoin seller, but it was Thanksgiving, and a huge snowstorm hit Boston, which meant the money only arrived the afternoon before her deadline. In that delay, Bitcoin's exchange rate had changed, and now her money order didn't cover the full $500 ransom. It was about $13 short. Her last chance was using a Bitcoin ATM machine. There are hundreds of them in the US, and one was in Brooklyn, New York, not far from her daughter Alina's apartment.
It's a very kind of spooky looking ATM. It has no buttons. It just has a slot that you feed your money into.
Tuesday afternoon, the full ransom was sent to the hacker's account, but it was 2 hours late. Ina inserted one short message to the criminals with her payment.
I wrote, "I wish you all will drop dead."
The FBI doesn't have complete data on how many of these ransomware attacks occur every year, but they're clearly on the rise. The antivirus software firm Symantec reports that hundreds of thousands of these attacks are launched every month. There's also a real difference of opinion on whether victims should pay. Security researchers say paying ransom only encourages criminals, but the FBI says some of this ransomware is so tough to crack that paying a few $100s is sometimes the only way to get your files back.
Our information was held hostage.
And it's not just individuals and hospitals who get hit. Hackers have hit several local police stations. We've heard of law firms and newsrooms being targeted. Even the city of Detroit last year had its data held for an $800,000 ransom by hackers. The city didn't pay. NYU computer scientist Justin Kapos says, generally speaking, hackers go after smaller individual targets because they're pretty easy. Victims often inadvertently download the viruses themselves by clicking on those email attachments. Besides, he says, the risks of getting caught are low, and if you cast a wide enough net, you'll get something.
When you go fishing, you don't try to catch every fish in the ocean. You only want to catch some. And if you catch enough of them, then it's been a profitable trip for you.
When her mom got hacked, Alina Simone, who's a journalist by day, did some research into ransomware for a piece she wrote for the New York Times. She says it's alarming how organized and easy it is to carry out these kinds of attacks.
There are people making viruses, selling viruses. There are distributors whose specialty is distributing viruses. These perpetrators, they don't have to know a line of code. They can just buy a virus and then hire a distributor and send it out.
Her mom's story, however, wasn't over. Ina had paid the hackers her $500, but rather than releasing her files as promised, they sent her this message. It said, "You did not pay in time for decryption." Remember, she'd paid 2 hours late. Now the hackers doubled the ransom to $1,000, gave her another deadline, and said if she missed this one, they would delete everything.
If you won't pay by then, all your files are gone forever.
Using a message board the hackers provided, another one of those customer-friendly touches, Ina pleaded with the people she'd previously told to drop dead. "We had a snowstorm. It was a holiday. I'm only 2 hours late." Did this feel strange that you're trying to communicate to a group of criminals, who knows where they are in the world, saying, "You don't understand, the post office, the snow, Thanksgiving, a long weekend"? I mean, you must have felt...
But what else? This is the only option. It's either this
You
or
didn't know who would work.
Absolutely not.
But later that day, the hackers released her files in full. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm William Brangham.
Two things that I want to touch on that video. The one computer science guy, he said that you could use your computer, you just couldn't access your files. And that's true. This virus, so far, has been very easy to clean off. I mean, we run a couple of malware tools, and we can get rid of the virus in seconds. In 1 hour, we can have the computer completely cleaned off. The virus isn't there anymore. It's just that all your files on the computer won't open. They're encrypted. And the thing about her and the Bitcoins, we've had this happen to several clients so far. You either restore your backup if you have one, or you pay the Bitcoin. I mean, there's no other options. So I had one customer that I can't name, of course, but last September, a nurse in the office opened up a suspicious email, and it went out on the network, and it encrypted about 35,000 photos of patients that they had. Well, it was before Labor Day, so the backup cycle that they had was like maybe 3 tapes or something, whatever how it worked out. By the time they come back Tuesday and realized they couldn't open any of their patient pictures, every backup tape they had been copied over with the encrypted data, so we had no backup anymore. So I logged into their computer, and there's going to be a video here shortly that shows you kind of how this works. You have to get this special Tor browser to connect because it's hidden through proxy servers. And I opened it up on my computer with their address they give you, and it said I had 48 hours, I had to pay 1 Bitcoin. Well, I've never bought a Bitcoin before, but that's quite an adventure. I found a service through a guy in New York, so I went to my local post office, bought a money order with my debit card for about $550, overnighted that with FedEx to this guy's address in New York. He went to a Bitcoin exchange store. He takes his $25 or whatever he gets out of it, and he would buy 1 Bitcoin for me. And then the Bitcoin is just a series of numbers. It's not like one of those old gold coins they show. He sends me my Bitcoin address, and I put it in my Bitcoin wallet so I can pay them. Well, that takes a while. So by this time, I'm running out of time. I only got like 4 hours left. So I had opened it on my computer, but I needed it on their computer. So I logged back into their computer and opened up the browser, and it said that I was 2 hours late. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go through this whole process again and spend another $550. So I did the chat with them, and I said, hey, when I first opened this, it said I had 48 hours. I've got a screenshot from that time. It says I had 48 hours, and now you're saying I'm 2 hours late. 20 minutes later, the guy chats back with me, and he says, we'll accept your 1 Bitcoin. Send us the money. I did. He sent me the decryptor tool, and 30 minutes later, all the files were restored.
Very user-friendly.
They are very user-friendly.
Scam on top of a malware.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's look at the dates here, because this is what's alarming to me. Like I said, I saw this in fall 2013. Ran into it at that office in 2014. 2015, it popped up a couple of times. This year, I think I've already seen it 3 times with customers that we have. And I mean, look at these dates. This was last Wednesday, Methodist Hospital in Kentucky. If you went to their website, they said that they have an internal state of emergency. They got hit with the Locky virus that encrypted their medical record system. And they weren't shut down, but they were using paper charts, pen and paper. They couldn't access their computer system. Same one they talked about in that video. That was February 5th. That was in Hollywood. They were demanding a $17,000 ransom. You know, at first, as an IT person, you try to back up stuff, you try to restore stuff, you try to fix it. Eventually, you get to the point the hospital shut down, and you say, we're just going to have to pay this $17,000 fee and get this back going. And that's what they did. I think next we have something that's really interesting. Yeah, this is really cool. The Locky virus. I had a customer hit with this week. It's the newest variation, I think. It renames everything with a .locky file. That's cute, isn't it? It locks your files. It calls it Locky. And it was one of the cheaper ones. It only wants 1 Bitcoin to restore your files.
That's about $500, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it changes.
Bitcoin is 300 pounds in European and about $437.17 in America.
But everywhere you buy it, there's a transaction fee of 70%. And then it fluctuates like they were talking about there. So like one day you buy 1 Bitcoin and it's worth $433, but then it changes a little bit and it's worth $444. So they recommend that you buy like 1.2 Bitcoins just to be safe when you do this. The next video though is really neat. It's a website called Bleeping Computer that I use a lot for malware tools. And they have a guy here that done a video of actually getting encrypted with the Locky virus. So he shows what happens with the encryption process from the beginning.
Hello everybody, today we're taking a look at the Locky ransomware Trojan. Now this is a file encrypting ransomware, sort of like Cryptolocker, and there's been tons of copycats of that. And this has received a fair bit of publicity lately from different websites, mainly because of how it will infect using Microsoft Word macros and also encrypting unmounted network shares, which is fairly interesting. So let's just go ahead and take a look at it. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the actual email that it would come with. Normally, you would receive a spam email claiming to be, I think, like an online fax service or something like that, and you would receive a Word document. And in the Word document would, of course, include this macro here, which will actually download the Trojan. So that's where we are right now. We have the Trojan here, and we also have an unmapped network shared drive thing. So as you can see here, it is hello.txt. I wouldn't recommend running this because this will hopefully encrypt this file. Don't run it. Don't run it, dude. Don't run it. All right, we're running it. Just open up Task Manager. Why not? This is my first time actually running this, so I'm not actually sure if it'll work. So let's see what it does. Okay, it runs. It deletes itself. And give it a minute here. Can't tell if it's actually doing anything or not. Oh, yeah, it did something. Okay, so go to our sample pictures folder. It's all encrypted, and there's a lot going on right now. Okay, important information. We can close this now. It's not necessary. The damage has been done. So there it is. All of our files are encrypted. Receive private keys. Go to these links. They're all onion links, and that's nice. You get a text file with the same thing, and it also replaces our wallpaper with that. So let's see if our network share was a victim or not. In our host. Uh-oh.
Yeah, bad word.
If we go to our Explorer here, as you can see, this is on the host. And yeah, as you can see, I disconnected my actual NAS because I would not like my files encrypted by this. Anyway, I have some instructions here on how to unencrypt your files. So we'll just go ahead and get the Tor browser and go to the page and see what they want. Unfortunately, it doesn't bundle Tor browser with the Trojan. That would have been probably more convenient for people who actually want to pay the ransom. Make them go out and download Tor. It's kind of annoying. I expect this in the newest version of Locky for them to automatically do that. So as you can see, our videos encrypted, our pictures encrypted, music encrypted. Not only is it encrypted, it also changed the file name, so that is quite annoying. So we shall install Tor browser. Let's see what that text file looks like, actually. VMware host. Open with Notepad. So as you can see, it's... Okay. So we'll run our Tor browser here. Yes, just connect. I don't care. Come on. Okay, so we're connected. Now we should be able to go to this onion link here. If it will load. Oh, there we go. Locky Decryptor. This is how you fix your files, supposedly. And they want you to send 0.5 Bitcoin to that address. And if I look at my phone right now, as of this second, Bitcoin is at $440.23. So half of that, 220. 220 USD. That's pretty high. Pretty high. Might serve you better to wait for the price of Bitcoin to go down. It's kind of on a bubble right now. But yeah, that's pretty terrible actually, because as of right now, I'm not sure if there's a way to actually decrypt these files. I haven't seen any Locky Decryptor threads anywhere really, and I'll make an update video if there is one, but for right now, I would say definitely avoid opening Word docs from unsolicited emails, and go ahead and disable macros in your Office suite, unless if you need macros. Just don't open those emails. It's not a good idea. So that's about it for Locky. Let's see, Locky Locker or something. I'm not sure what else it could be called other than Locky. It does a pretty good number on your system, and will also, of course, encrypt your unmounted Windows shares, so not good. So thank you all very much for watching. Try to avoid this if you can. You don't want this. You don't want to run this on your network, definitely not, because this will just ruin everything. Don't do it. So anyway, take care.
So, interesting thing about that, he mentioned it. It's the first time I'd seen it when it happened to one of my customers this week. It does rename the files. In the past, your file name was still the same. It just put an extension at the end of it, like .locky or whatever. This renames your files, and it makes it incredibly hard to restore it from a backup, because you can't tell what you're restoring. You know, if you look at a directory with 100 files, they just all have random characters, so you don't know what you're trying to restore, unless you just do the whole directory itself. So that was a nice little trick they did with that one to make it even worse. I think our next part is about Bitcoins. I mean, you know, why can we not track this down more easily? I mean, it seems like there would be some way that they could just find the hackers and shut it down. But because of Bitcoins, it makes it even more difficult.
Bitcoin is a type of digital currency. I'm just reiterating what they said earlier. With the encryption techniques are used to regulate and the generation of units of currency and verify the transfer of funds operating independently of a central bank. So they're not regulated in any way. The hackers using ransomware use Bitcoin because it's harder to trace. Although all Bitcoin transactions are public, traceable, and permanently stored in the Bitcoin network, these hackers have found a way to keep the FBI and other agencies guessing and unable to trace them. They probably generate a Bitcoin account for one of their hacks, and then as soon as they get their money in, they just erase once they get their money, they basically erase the account. So the FBI and everybody else is just at a loss, basically. That hackers will, however, in another attempt to be nice, I guess, for lack of better terms, will give you a bulk discount if multiple computers on your network have been hacked, kind of like the $17,000 that the hospital had paid. Sometimes the usual charge for them to release your files is 1.5 Bitcoins. That's the going rate right now. Per computer, which like I said earlier is $431.17 currently. Like they said, it changes often. The bulk price is, the going rate is 22 Bitcoins, which averages out to about $9,485. So yeah, and like they said earlier, they usually get it like an email, give it to you, send it to you in an email with somebody's name that you might recognize or something like that, and you click on it, and bada bing, bada boom, you own $20-some thousand.
So what's the encryption? I mean, earlier when you talked about healthcare and healthcare fraud, something we have to do to confirm, to follow HIPAA rules is if a provider has their data still in their own office and they're doing backups, we have to make sure those backups are encrypted. So if anybody were to steal it, takes it outside the office, they couldn't use it anymore. It would just be a paperweight. Well, I'll use hard drives that are made for that. They're made for HIPAA compliance, and they're self-encrypting hard drives. Once they unplug from the computer, they become encrypted. They encrypt themselves with something like a 1024-bit key, which is the same thing this Locky virus does. In reading about that, something was said, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was like for a supercomputer at NASA to take that 1024-bit key and try to decrypt it, it could run for 100 years to decrypt that one key. Every victim has a unique key. So once they decrypt one, that's only for one person. So that's not an option. The next option would be like if the FBI could track it down. The original one, I think it was the Cryptolocker, the FBI actually did track that down. I don't know where that would end up, in China or somewhere. And they found a computer there, and in that computer was a database, and it had thousands of decryption keys for people. So they set up a website, and they said, you know, if you still have your files that were locked by Cryptolocker, you can come here and get your key now. And those people were able to do it. But I mean, I think a year went by, so in most cases you moved on. I mean, maybe you kept your files. If it was a business, though, you couldn't have waited that long. You had to do something else. So that's the issue with trying to decrypt it and tracking down the emails. You would think the emails are coming from somewhere. Well, they use VPN networks, proxy servers that bounce through Russia, China, all over the world. And the relation there I could make, it would be like taking a prepaid cell phone, making a call, driving over it with your car, taking all the pieces and just throwing it out in the middle of the ocean and telling somebody to go track it down. I mean, because it just goes that many places, and they're trying to track all that information down. Mobile security, this was interesting. I want to put this in here. Apparently there are some new ransomware that's been discovered this year that is targeting cell phones. It's a little bit harder on a cell phone because for most of the time you have to install an app through an app store. But some apps will get infected. Maybe like they packed into the app, the manufacturer of the app, and they've infected that app. So when you download it to your phone, then it starts locking everything on your phone. You know, your photos that you have, any videos you've taken, they've got locked, just like on a computer. I want to talk about Apple products and look at the date here on this too. You know, people say Apple's safe, and it is a lot safer. There's not near as many viruses. But on March 6th, a new variation of this came out, and it was detected that it would install on the latest OS X Apple operating system. What was interesting, it was signed with a valid Apple certificate. Now, a few days later, Apple took away that certificate from that company, but you had to upgrade your Mac to get the update that would stop it from installing. For several days, though, it wasn't. I mean, you could just download it from the App Store and it would encrypt your files. It required a 1 Bitcoin or roughly $400 to $500 ransom also, and we have a video of it happening on a Mac.
Hello everybody, today we're doing something really not so different for the channel, but definitely different for me. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new Trojan called the Key Ranger ransomware. And as you may have been able to guess, this is a ransomware Trojan that actually runs on OS X. And today we do have a OS X virtual machine to run this on. And as far as I know, this is like the first major ransomware to be on OS X. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. First thing to note that this Trojan came from the Transmission BitTorrent client website. I suppose their site got hacked and there was an uploaded new version of Transmission that includes this ransomware. So of course it comes as this disk image. Go ahead and mount it. And we'll go ahead and show the package contents. If we go into resources, we have a file called general.rtf. This is the actual payload of the Trojan. And the thing that's interesting about this is that it's actually digitally signed. So it is able to run without any user prompt, or any password prompt, I should say. So that is fairly interesting. They were able to get some digital signatures stolen from somebody. So to run it, you just copy this to the applications folder. Let me go ahead and figure out how to use OS X. So we'll just copy this bad version of Transmission in, and then we should be able to just run it. There we go. Accept the agreement. And right off the bat, the first thing it wants to do is tell you that this version is just completely screwed and you need to update. Of course, we're going to skip that for now. Close this. And we should see a change here in the library folder. So now, as you can see, we do have the Trojan running right now. It has dropped these 3 files into our library folder, and at this point it will wait normally 3 days and then it will begin the encryption. Of course, we're going to go ahead and speed that up. So go ahead and change the date. Unlock. This is the only time we need a password prompt because we're changing the date. Turn this off. And of course, this is a ransomware Trojan, much like all of the Windows ones, so it'll encrypt mainly documents and data files like that. We have an RTF file and we have ASQuake, so we should get some encryption going on. So I'm going to go ahead and advance this 4 days just to get a result. Go ahead and save it. And it should start encrypting at any moment. There we go. Okay, so I played with the calendar a little bit, and as you can see, it is currently encrypting files. So go ahead and close that now, and we have a nice README for decrypt, it looks like, in every folder that it was able to encrypt files in. And we open it. Your computer has been locked, and all your files have been encrypted. Go to this Onion link, and pay them 1 Bitcoin. So we'll go ahead and check out this Onion link here. Now, yes, I know I missed in the last video that they had these onion.to links, so you don't actually need the Tor browser. This will just work. That was my mistake. But anyway, go ahead and load up this link that they gave us. Then the second thing we're supposed to do is use this, looks like a Bitcoin address as an ID, so we'll go ahead and paste that into here. And we have some type of payment page here. We're supposed to pay, I suppose, this address 1 BTC. At this point, you're pretty much screwed because, as far as I know, there's no way to decrypt these files yet for free. There are a couple of ways that you can avoid this malware. One would be to have updates enabled in OS X, so that would be around here somewhere. App Store. If you check for updates, you'll get the update because Apple revoked the digital signature that KeyRanger used, so it would show up as malware. And I believe there's some built-in anti-malware in OS X that would have an update for this. Another way to avoid it would be to update your BitTorrent client. So if you're on 2.9 for whatever reason, it should prompt you and yell at you that you need to update it. And the update will actually remove the ransomware. So that is about it for KeyRanger. Thank you all very much for watching, and take care.
So that one illustrates that it is possible on a Mac too. All right, so how do you prevent it? That's the key. You just got to prevent it, and it's hard. It used to be you had a good antivirus product, but it's not about just antivirus anymore. I've seen this happen on computers with Norton, AVG. We use a managed antivirus called Viper, and it's went right through it with up-to-date definitions. So the new technology, or the new term that IT companies are using, is called layered security. That is that you have an up-to-date and monitored antivirus. If you're in an office with 20 computers and they all have antivirus on them, are you sure that the antivirus is turned on, that it's getting updates? I see all the times I'll sit down at a computer and one's expired somewhere, or something's happened to it and it's not downloading updates anymore. Another big thing that I believe makes a difference is web filtering. You can either do it through a service like we offer, or you can buy a commercial firewall that will filter the traffic. And you can go in and pick categories like bad websites, malware sites, and it watches all the traffic going in and out and it blocks it. So that's just another layer of security on top of your antivirus. The other big one is patch management. You want to make sure all your computers are up to date. I saw a video somewhere that showed a Windows 7 computer that had 100 updates ready to install, but it had a fully functioning version of Norton antivirus on it, fully up to date. But they did this test, they ran one of those ransomware things, it went right through and encrypted all the files, even with Norton on it. But Windows had patched the problem, so if it had all the Windows updates, that may not have happened. Fortunately though, they go through more than just Windows updates. Like Dereck said earlier, a lot of Adobe updates, Adobe Flash and Java, are very easy for these hackers to get into. If you've got old versions laying around on your computer, that's an open door for them to get in. And then when it happens, you're going to have a backup. And you're going to have a backup that works. I recommend for all my customers to have some type of off-site backup, whether it be in the cloud or if they have some kind of policy where they're taking backups off-site. You know, the issue that we run into occasionally is like you have a server, in a small office, maybe the server is a dedicated workstation, and they have an external hard drive hooked up to it. And every night it backs up to that external hard drive. Well, if that computer is the one that gets infected with the ransomware encrypts the external hard drive. So now your backup is as worthless as what's on your computer, and it can't be restored. You have to pay the ransom fee. So you want a service, if you're looking off-site, most of those companies like CrashPlan, Carbonite, they keep a retention policy where even if it backed up encrypted files over the weekend, you could go back 5 days and say, I want my files from 5 days ago, 6 days ago. Dropbox does the same thing. If you store your files in Dropbox, you can email them and say, I need to go back 6 days and get my files. And I've done that for people. Educate your users. For me, over the past year, everywhere I went, I always said, don't open a zip file. If you get a zip file in your email, just delete it, don't open it. But as you saw with that Locky thing, it's actually Word documents now. So you have to be careful. Whatever you're opening in email, is it from somebody you know? Is it something you're expecting? And then the websites, you know, be careful with your employees and what they're looking at on the internet. Even with the web filtering solution, they can still log into maybe their Yahoo Mail, Gmail, open attachments from there. At home, it's probably the same principles. You want your antivirus up to date. At home, you may want to consider an antivirus that includes a little more security, like an internet security with a firewall. A lot of times we don't use those in businesses because they can cause conflicts, but at home that should be safe. Keep Windows up to date, Adobe, Java, all that stuff, keep it up to date on your home computer. You could consider purchasing a commercial firewall. The stuff that we sell for smaller offices starts around $400, and it has that capability to filter traffic based on different categories. Patch management, again, I put that back in there for some reason. Back up your files off-site or with cold backups. And what I mean with cold backups is if you're going to back up to an external hard drive, get 2 external hard drives. 1 week, have one plugged in, let it back up to it. On Friday, unplug it, put the second one in. That way, worst case, you've lost a week. You can change it daily if you feel even more comfortable with that. But just make sure you have this backup that's not attached to your computer. So that way, if the ransomware hits while the backup is unhooked, it's safe and you can use it. Of course, a lot of this doesn't come through passwords, but there's viruses that do. So you really have to create a strong password. There's a list of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 password, admin, football, some very common things that people can guess really easy. I always go with beer when I don't know somebody's password. I try beer and it usually works.
That's the one that would have got me.
Yeah,
I would have
used
never.
that. Yeah.
I would have never. If I was a hacker, obviously I'm not. But if I was a hacker, I would not have guessed that.
What is it? I can't see.
It's QWERTY. It's the one that's
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
Left hand. I would have never guessed that. Probably really not.
Another video about passwords.
Thought myself, but you guys have these things so password protected.
That just means you have to enter your password. What's your password, Michael? Oh, that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
All right, so that's pretty much our presentation on cybersecurity. I did want to focus on ransomware because it's amazing to me how much I'm seeing this in the past year, but the past few months it's on the rise. And I think it's going to be something that we all will encounter at some point. Do we have any questions?
Oh, yeah, I've got a lot of them.
Okay, Dereck.
The firewall, is that a one-time fee that takes up, or is it like a subscription that you have to pay for?
Now, if you're talking about a hardware firewall, like an actual piece that your internet plugs into, you would want one that would have a yearly subscription fee because it'll keep up to date with all the new websites and IP addresses and know what to block. Like we sell one that's called 40net, and they have, I think they call it the 40 guard service. You pay for it each year, and it keeps their service up to date on your device.
Just 40?
No, the software is called, the device is called 40net.
Oh,
I think the smallest one they have is around $300, and then you have to pay like $100 a year to keep it up to date.
that's not too bad. What about the software ones? I know the physical hardware ones are supposed to be better, but are there any good software ones?
Yeah, used in conjunction with the other things, like keeping your Windows up to date, everything else up to date, internet security, AVG, internet security, all of those for home use would be fine. And really, when you're talking about the hardware firewalls, I would recommend that more when you have 3 or 4 computers that you're trying to protect at your house. If you just have one computer, then more than makes sense to just buy a software product.
Okay. Yeah. Go to work and scare my boss to death.
I mean, it's really scary in a way. I mean, you have to stay protected with this.
Well, like the backups. What if you have an offsite that automatically updates when you're on your, I'm gonna have to go on site, I guess, and read how long they keep for backups, or can you stop the backup and schedule one for like once a week or whatever? Because, if you're not on very much at home, you might not realize, this happened.
I use CrashPlan a lot, and CrashPlan keeps 30 days history. So when you log in to do a restore, it shows you your calendar, and you can go back 30 days and pick that day and restore your files from that day.
So it keeps it 30 days every day. I mean, like there's 30 days of backups.
Yeah,
And you can go all the way back.
to the 30th day to restore something.
Which means you have to try to figure out what you did in between then.
Yeah. Yeah, if you didn't realize you've been hit with it, for a week or so, then that's right. But you're going to know because it's going to infect every file on your computer, so you're not going to be able to open up any pictures, documents.
Yeah, we had an incident at work where the PDF file reader was broke. And I did a search and said, oh, good news is it's broke. Bad news is that means you've gotten infected.
There's a lot of scams. I don't know, anybody here, have you got the phone calls from Microsoft, from India? Yeah, there's those.
I got a call from the IRS.
Oh, I didn't know they outsourced there.
Yeah.
I've noticed on some web browsers that get hijacked and they'll put false advertisements near the top, and I've had several offices that have trouble with like a Xerox printer, and you type in Xerox support, and the very top one, it looks like Xerox support, you call the 1-800 number, you get some Indian person, which you're kind of thinking you might get an Indian person anyway, And they start talking about, well, you have a virus on your computer that's causing this, we need to log into your computer. And they don't do this ransomware, they just pretty much want, like, you pay $300 for them to come in and clean your computer over the internet.
Yeah, you were talking about the, earlier about the social media hacks. My Twitter was hacked a couple years ago, and it was kind of funny, I thought, but my daughter sends me a text, because I'm not on Twitter that much, and she's like, hey Mom, I think your Twitter account's been hacked, and she was kind of like LOL, and I thought, I looked it up, and it was hacked by like a weight loss company, and it was throwing all this stuff out about, take these pills and all this kind of stuff, which people know that's not me, so it's like, that wasn't me, but, so is there any other reason why because you're talking about Facebook being one of you being hacked?
600,000 times a day.
Well, so, and I see that all the time, but why are people hacking someone's Facebook account?
A lot of times it's not people.
Right.
For one, it's a virus somewhere that has just got a database of 1 million names and it tries 40 generic passwords to get into the account, and one works.
For what, and
Posting ads for watching stuff, so somebody will click on the ad and somebody gets some revenue off of it. I mean,
it's almost like an advertising firm, that would take money from a weight loss clinic or a weight loss organization, and then they pay them for advertising, but they don't know that their advertising might be illegal. And then they got this company, the virus that searches all these, and then they blast it.
Then a lot of it's that vulgar stuff. They'll have really nasty looking videos that looks like somebody posted.
Yeah, and I actually own a group on Facebook that has over 10,000 members, and I have to screen every single person, and I have to screen every single post now because of that. No more people from Morocco. I mean, that's terrible to say, but everybody from Morocco that wanted to join wanted to post pornography. I'm like, we have nothing else to do.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do it just to be,
But it was all these men from Morocco.
Right. They just get bored and they're like, I'm going to try to hack somebody's Facebook.
A lot of it was the same videos, which is really odd.
that is odd. I mean, sometimes I
This is
don't.
a really special one.
I don't understand the financial benefit. in some
I don't
cases.
either. That's why I'm trying to figure out, is there a financial benefit to some of this?
They might be practicing for a bigger thing like ransomware.
Yeah, they could be working up
the
the ladder.
It's just a build up.
Right.
Become bigger and
So
better.
if they can hack your Facebook, well, maybe the next step's hacking a small bank or something. Right.
What is going to happen to this when U.S. turns over the security? I mean, U.S. has been in charge of it, and it's supposed to go to Europe or something. Are they going to try and filter that stuff from coming over to us, or are they just going to open the pipelines?
That's a really good question.
I'm not sure what you're.
I have no idea.
What do you mean, U.S. is in charge of it? Well, right now, the internet, they're running it and checking it and all that.
He's getting ready to retire.
Like backbones, we have backbones. And if the backbone goes down, then it has to go through. And sometimes that's why your emails don't get where they're supposed to. You can either get caught up in the backbone, or if it's down, you just can't get anywhere. I mean, I can remember in Abingdon, when the backbone went down and all the internet service for one group went down, but you could get it out and going another way. Like going out by AOL might have been down, and CenturyLink was working fine.
There's a lot of backbones now and redundancy in networks. So, CenturyLink may have a fiber line cut somewhere and then it routes over through Comcast.
I got a handful of questions on everybody.
Okay.
If you're doing small office, home office, where you're not more than 3 computers, doing backups, and it's aggravating if you do a backup and all you have are your files. Norton used to have a ghost imaging software where you could take the entire operating system and files and put it on an external hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
What is out nowadays, because Norton removed that, starting with version 10 and moving forward.
Right.
What backup is available that if you wanted to image your entire hard drive as a backup, what do you recommend?
Okay, you can stick with Windows. From Windows 7 up, you can use the Windows Backup utility, and it'll create an image.
Does it do the operating system?
It does
in
the whole
addition to
thing.
file? It does
Yep.
all, very good.
And then I mean, it works good. I use it some places. Acronis is another company, third-party company. I think it's called True Image, and it does the same thing that Ghost used to do. It images your computer to a device, to a hard drive, external hard drive.
But for small office, home office, if you've got Windows, it has a disk engine built into it.
It does, yeah.
Okay, next question. VPN service, and I know that doesn't, if you go somewhere you're not, that's gonna have this, and you clicked on it, you bought it, okay? You're about to pay the price. But to secure your data between your computer or your office and where you're going to avoid being tracked, virtual private network, what do you recommend? Is it something good to have? Is there service out there for small office, home office? What's your feelings and thoughts on that? And is there one you would recommend?
There's really not one I would recommend. I mean, there are VPN providers out there that do that. You pay a service fee each month, and basically when you connect to the internet, you're connecting through their VPN. Mainly for that, it's to hide your identity because it stops. Everybody out in the world sees their IP address and they don't see what's behind it. But now you could still get trapped into a virus or something because they may not be filtering the traffic. There could be some VPN companies that actually filter the traffic too. But a lot of those VPNs are just set up for privacy so that it can't be tracked back to you.
So VPN will not help you as far as distancing you from malware?
Yeah, you can still get this email through a VPN.
Right. It doesn't give you any extra alert protection.
Right. It would do in the Chevy carburetor thing I was talking about. It would block that type thing.
What about, and for Apple's antivirus for Apple or Mac computers or malware tools, should you get something on a tablet? What do you recommend removal tools?
Yeah, on a Mac I would.
Which one?
I don't use a Mac personally, but I know there's one company.
Does Bomb I know that works great on Windows. Does it work for?
I don't know if that's it or not. I was thinking it was more like ESET, E-S-E-T. There's one of those companies that makes a pretty good malware and antivirus product for a Mac. And Macs definitely are still a lot safer than Windows. For us as an IT company, we often run into situations where a business can't use Mac because their software is not compatible.
Final question. What's your feelings as Bitcoin as an investment?
I was telling him about that.
We didn't talk about this.
You go to New York for somebody to buy, is there an opportunity to market we're missing out on here?
Right.
With a growing marketplace, from what you're showing us here, would somebody benefit from seller fees of Bitcoins, and B, how do you track the bubble of where Bitcoins are up and Bitcoins are down?
Yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, they're not regulated at all by like any currency or.
It's not really backed up by
actual
money.
bank or
Yeah.
anywhere. It's like virtual money.
But, I mean, with people like this requiring Bitcoins, there's a need for it. And I don't see, it seems like the price is going to keep rising.
Are there legitimate uses for Bitcoin?
Yeah, eBay accepts Bitcoins now as a payment. I think I read Amazon was even investigating.
And individuals do too, that, there's all kinds of things doing, selling something.
Yes.
I
PayPal account has for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a lot of fees associated with it.
And it's a lot easier to stay anonymous. Like if you're doing, sell to each, individual.
We don't want to know about that, whatever you're trying to sell.
I'm sure there's probably human trafficking or sex slaves or something they use probably Bitcoin.
I said legitimate.
One of our viewers had a question.
Okay.
They want to know, what about iOS devices? Are they safe from getting?
That same Apple product would run on the iOS device too, tablet or phone. But like they said, it only took Apple 2 days to revoke the certificate. So it was a very short-lived virus, but it was there.
If individuals and companies are actually paying the ransom, wouldn't whoever's doing this want to hack that same company again to get more ransom? I mean, if they know those hospitals are going to pay them $17,000.
Yeah.
If I was sitting in India or wherever they're sitting in China, I would be going, okay, we're going to hit them again because they will pay. We're going to make it 30.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, in my mind, the distinction is it's not somebody sitting at a computer in China targeting it. It's somebody that's wrote a virus and it's propagating across the internet and it's just hitting random people. So they're seeing this money coming in, but they don't really care where it's coming from.
It's kind of like the telemarketing thing to where whenever you're on the call list, it just dials a random sort of the numbers on one time.
But if
And then
you
whichever
answer, you're
one
gonna
picks
get
up.
more calls.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
that
Or
just
if you give
happens.
them money,
So you're saying there's a future to write a script for hacks that pay to revisit, if you can write that script into your virus that detects these things to revisit.
Yeah, I mean, that's
the
true.
payout.
Yeah,
Wow, big and
that's, I mean, these people have to be brilliant because they have to keep up with all the authentication keys to send it to the right people when they do pay. I mean, so there has to be some massive computer system out there keeping
You know,
track.
I wonder though, I don't think there is like a massive computer system. I imagine there's a basement somewhere with 3 or 4 laptops and just some kids sitting around, maybe not kids, but I mean some people with some good computer knowledge, and they are doing all of that.
well, what they're talking about, if they've been hit once, they're gonna make sure that they have protection so they don't get hit twice.
But it changes. That's the crazy part. You know, just now, the big thing that happened this week with that lock key is it came in a Word document. That's never been done before. So,
Yeah, I can't remember, somebody I ran into was talking about the number of people they employ at a local retail, and all they're doing is watching for suspicious stuff and changing codes to keep people from breaking in. And it wasn't even a big hospital, but it was like Walmart or Lowe's or something. They've got all these people on the computer watching for suspicious activity, and they're changing codes to keep those people from being able.
Well, just think about the amount of hackers that are on the government's payroll for the FBI, CIA, all these people.
Yeah,
Like,
one
they-
is my cousin. She says I can't tell you what it is because I have to kill you. I know she does something.
But when the FBI broke the Apple iPhone code from the terrorists, they got a third party to break it.
Right.
The
And
FBI could not
that's
break
what-
it.
that's the
And I'm
thing.
going, okay.
Most of
They
the
had
hackers
to.
for the FBI have actually hacked into the FBI.
Yeah.
I mean, so
Yeah.
they're
And then
the
they
ones that
hire them.
Right.
Yeah, well, and Apple has turnover, and it was probably the guys that left because they just threw money at it. And that's what they should have done to begin with, if you think about it, you know?
Right.
Or they could have had a contest out of it, you know?
A Bitcoin.
The big-
You do this, and then you get such a, so now,
Yeah,
and
$50
Apple
million
by now participating, now they don't know how it happened.
yeah.
Right.
And they're like freaking out every time we, you know?
Well, the thing about it is every day there's criminals that are coming up with new ways to get viruses and Word documents or whatever. And I don't think there's as many people on the other side trying to stop it. And I think that's where
The government can't keep up.
No.
Well, you know-
Anytime you go to a government website, it's so outdated and so
Right.
difficult to use and clunky and.
One thing I've run into very recently, and I tell people, I deal with the dentist office, a lot of dentist offices, a lot of them use
Yeah.
the same type of software. Well, 2 months ago, all of a sudden, I get tons of phone calls one morning that their software isn't working right, they can't pull up charts. I call the software company, and I'm on hold for like an hour and a half. Finally, they come in, they say, Adobe released a Flash update last night. Our computers use Flash, our software uses Flash. It's caused our software to stop working. You need to revert back to the previous version of Flash, and you need to turn off automatic updates in Flash. So that was their solution. That's what I had to do in all these offices. Well, at the same time, it comes out that these guys are using exploits in old versions of Flash to get into the computer network. So I mean, it's a give or take, you know. I had to do that to keep their software running, but at the same time, it just opened the door for stuff like this to get in. It's crazy.
I have a son who does hacking kind of stuff like this legitimately. And we figured out his way, when he was in kindergarten, he hacked into a school computer system. And
When he was in kindergarten?
kindergarten. And so at that point, we were like, okay, first of all, he needs to be gifted. Second of all,
He's got a career.
He's got a career.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so it's scary.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
thank you, so thank you, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Also, while you're here, thank you for coming, you're making this a success for us, it's ongoing. We've got some more workshops coming out. Next week is Marketing Through Community Involvement, and that's with Michelle Goodman. So please try to come to that. Also, have you been to their new location on East Main Street? It is beautiful. And then on the 13th, we have iPad for Business by Sandy Ratliff. That name sounds so familiar.
Right, I remember who she is though.
I'm not sure.
She's from Richmond.
We gotta come and find out.
We gotta
Yeah,
come and find out.
We
And
try not to give her a
also-
lot of credit.
Yeah, that's true. She gets so much anyway.
It's a big
So
head.
anyway, technology's changing, like these guys have been talking about, so please try to come to that. We've got work sessions through May the 11th, and our team's going to be meeting in a couple of weeks for new topics. So if you know of some that you would like to add, please let us know. And thank you so much. We appreciate you.